So we're out here in my local, very chilly woods today. I apologise for the lack of riding gear. So an ironic start to the beginning of the video. Our washing machine's broke at the minute, so I've currently gone through all of my possible riding gear and it's in a heap in the garage, wet through, muddy, waiting for the new washing machine to come. So we're out on foot today. I'm wearing my jeans and many layers of clothing because it's about -2, and I've got a really good video lined up for you today. So recently, a few months ago, we moved into a new house. Now before we moved here, I was riding the Peak District, if you know what that is, if you're local in the UK, which is trails that are up in the moors. There's not that many steep descents. You don't see any trees ever. They don't exist in the Peak District. And that was the bulk of my riding for the last several years. Now when we've moved here, I've come across this woods which is nearby, which has got a lot of very steep, very exposed trails. There's wet roots everywhere, it's full of mud, and it's just completely different to anything I've ever ridden before. So it's been nice over the last couple of months of riding with someone local who's shown me all these trails and really sort of pushing myself out of my comfort zone and riding different trails that are beyond what I would normally do. So in this video, I just want to talk a little bit about how you can go from riding what you're currently comfortable at to getting to the point where you can ride trails that when you first look at them are completely beyond you. There's been quite a few trails in this woods that when I've just gone at them, looked at them first and I've gone, there's no way I can ride that. But a couple of months later, there's one that I'm stood at right now actually. I've actually, ridden it and I'm riding it fine now, and it's just been building up and gradually going up bit by bit. So in this video, I want to chat about how you can go from riding things that you really struggle with and are impossible to riding it comfortably. Right, so here's an example of a trail that 3 months ago, there was no way I was riding it. There was actually a couple of times where I've pushed my bike down, and there's various different bits on it which intimidated me. First of all, it's snowy today, but there's quite a few roots crossing the trails which have been super wet, super slick, and the whole thing has been covered in mud all the way down. Now, as well as that, it's also really exposed, so off to the right of the trail is pretty much a sheer drop, which you can probably see on camera now, which just goes all the way down. And then as well as that, it's steep, slippy, and there's some tight turns in there. So the first couple of times I rode it, my brain just went, nope, I'm not doing this. So there's been a few things I've done to actually build up to riding it, and now I can ride it comfortably now, and I enjoy it. I don't get scared when I ride it. It just feels like a normal trail, but I was pretty petrified of it a few months ago. It really overwhelmed me with it. So there's a few different things I've done to ride this. I think the first point for this video is actually breaking down it into sections. So what I did when I rode it for the first time was I didn't just rock up and ride the whole thing in one go when I rode it properly. I did the easier bits, which was at the bottom, and actually pushed up, rode the bottom section, pushed up, rode the bottom section, pushed up, rode the bottom section, and broke it down into sections. And then again, there's a bit further down which you can't see where you can stop quite easily and then restart. So again, I just started riding the top bit, stopped, pushed up, rode the top bit, stopped, pushed up, and then it culminated in the end with being able to ride the whole thing. So if there's a tricky bit of trail that you're struggling with, don't be afraid to break it down into sections and just ride that bit over and over and over again until you can then ride the whole thing. And you'll find as well that, hiccups. You'll find as well things that overwhelm you and scare you, like the drop off to the side as an example. The more you ride with it, you realise you don't actually come that near the drop. You're further away than you think, and you just stop seeing it as much. Whereas if you just rock up on a ride and you're following someone down and you drop into it, you can think, whoa, that is a big drop off to the side. The more you stay around it, you realise actually it's not as bad as you think. So exposing yourself to it more and just doing the section over and over and over and over again in small parts is a great way to build your confidence. I think a good tip for that, start with the easier parts of the trail, build up your confidence on those, and then gradually build up bit by bit. The next tip into building up your confidence and riding things that you couldn't ride before is to actually go ride it with somebody else who can. This one's huge. So often, like that trail we were just looking at there, you can look at it and your brain tells you it's going to be a certain level of slippy, it's going to be a certain level of like slip on the bike, and you're going to have to slide your way down, and you can sometimes imagine what it's like to ride it, and then when you see someone else ride it, you can actually see what it's like, and you realize actually there's way more traction than it looks. Oh, it's not too fast, it's not too this, it's not too that. So if you're struggling to ride a certain section of trail and you look at it and thinking, how do I ride that? Just go and ride it with someone else, because it will show you that it's possible, and you can also see the lines that they take. You can see where they brake, where they don't. You can see the body position that they take. And when you see that, you can then imagine what it's like to ride it, and you can maybe follow them down, or just seeing them ride it and then coming back another day to ride it yourself is a really, really good tip. The more that you see other people riding the same thing, it just becomes normal to you and less overwhelming. So really do focus on getting out with somebody who can ride the trail. That will hugely boost your confidence and boost your skill level. So my third tip is to expose yourself, not like that, to the trail a little bit more often. So get out and about on the trail and just sort of see it a little bit more. So a great example, me and Ben are here today just on a walk and obviously shooting these videos. Because I'm not riding, you look at things with different eyes. So you can see bits and you can spot lines and you just get around it a little bit more. So where on the bike, the drop off to the side might be really scary. When you stood here and looking at it, you realise, actually, you know what, if I did fall down there, I'd roll. It's not a sheer drop. There's a couple of trees to catch you and hold on to. So what can be certain death when you're on the bike, when you actually look at it with calm, fresh eyes and you're on foot, you can think, oh, you know what, it's not actually as bad as you think. So just exposing yourself to the types of trails that scare you is a great way to build your confidence. Me and Ben are walking today and you're walking up it, and it just makes you feel a bit more relaxed about being here, and the trail, it gets you used to it more, used to being around trees and roots and whatnot. So just get out into that environment. If you're feeling that there's trails that are intimidating you, that you're really struggling with, maybe come out on foot one day and just go and walk them and go for a walk around the woods. There's no pressure. You don't have your bike with you, so you can't possibly ride it today. That will just calm you and relax you and help you look at it with objective eyes. I found with a lot of trails, it happened the other day actually, you can sometimes imagine them being far steeper than they actually are, and then when you go and look at them and you sort of see, you're like, oh, you know what, it's not actually as steep as I thought it was. Sometimes when you're on the bike, your fear magnifies things, and what is actually, you know, a fairly steep descent can seem vertical to you when you're on the bike. So when you come and relax and actually see it with fresh eyes, it calms you down a little bit. The more you're around it, the calmer you're going to feel. So the next tip, if you get to a section of trail that you look at and think, nope, not happening right now, try and mimic that section of trail somewhere else. So here's a good example. You've got a steep chute which then drops into a hard left into a berm, and if you miss the berm, you're going straight off the other side of the trail, which you do not want to do. So this is not the place you want to practice steep trails. Too much can happen if you go wrong. You've got like a big drop off the other side which you don't want to hit, and there's not much room for error. Like, you don't have any kind of run out if you mess it up. But a little bit further down the trail, there's a steep chute which is roughly as steep as this, but it's a lot more forgiving. There's a lot more run out at the bottom. There's a lot more space for it to go wrong. So if you do bail off to the side, there's stuff to catch you. And if you do just ride it straight and don't make the turn in at the bottom, it's not the end of the world. It's just flat and it catches you. So if there's certain sections of trail, in this example, steep chutes for example, and you feel I can't ride that right now, go and practice it elsewhere on safer sections. At the very bottom of this woods, there's about 6 or 7 steep chutes, but they just catch you at the bottom. So you can ride them all day long and practice your braking, practice your body position, and if anything goes wrong on it, you're only going to roll down the hill, or at the very worst, you get to the bottom and it catches you, so nothing bad can happen. So it's a really good idea to kind of isolate, right, what do I actually struggle with on these sections of trail, and then go and ride those types of sections elsewhere in a safer environment. And then what will happen then, if you've done lots of other practice on other steep stuff, you get to something like this and you're much more prepared to ride it. You can relate to other stuff and how much grip you had elsewhere and how it felt, and then you've got the confidence to do it on this section of trail. So I'll show you the bit a little bit further down which you could practice on, which is a lot safer than this section here if you're not feeling fully confident. So we're just at the bottom of that chute I was showing you there, so that would not be a good place to learn steep chutes. But this bit, however, it's just as steep as the last section of trail, but there's a lot more room for error. So if you go to the bottom and you completely bottle it, you can just straight line it and you've got a bit of a run out at the bottom. It's not as long, so you don't have as much room to build up momentum and build up speed, so by the time you've already started it, you're at the bottom of it. And if you bail either way, maybe not left, but if you bail right, you can kind of flop to your right. There's lots of grass to catch you, so Obviously that's not ideal, but at least you're building in a little bit of margin of error. And then the biggest bit, there's nowhere for you to go off a cliff or off the side of something. So that berm that we're just looking at there, it's a steep chute into a turn, and you've got to catch the berm, and if you don't, you're rolling down the side of the hill. Whereas here, if something goes wrong, you're going to hit the ground. Obviously not ideal, but you're not going to go off the side of something, so you're just making it that bit safer. So try and break down, like I said before, sections of trail and figure out what it is about them that you struggle with, and then go and practice in a safer environment. So you can practice on sections of trail where, you know, you still want to make sure you can comfortably ride it. Don't go pushing yourself way beyond your limits, but at least you have that little bit of margin for error. It's not as intimidating, there's not as much that can go wrong, which just makes it safer. So my final tip for this video, and this is before you drop into any descent, but especially descents that are tricky and you need to be fully aware of, is to calm yourself down before you go into it. You don't want to drop into something super hyped up, super motivated, or on the other end super scared and super tense. Just try and calm yourself. So if I was at the top of that trail, you're taking deep breaths, you're relaxing your grip, you're relaxing your body position, and you're going into it feeling relaxed and ready, and you sort of visualize your body position, how you want to attack the trail. If you do that, you're going to ride it so much better than if you go into it really tense, really scared, or on the other side of it, really aggressive and really overhyped. You want to stay calm, stay relaxed, and then you'll ride the trail so much better. So before hitting anything that kind of intimidates you or is a bit beyond your current comfort level, just calm yourself down before you go into it, and I promise you, you'll ride it so much better, and you will see things better. You'll see things as they actually are, rather than building them up in your head to something that they're just not. So that's well worth bearing in mind. Now I hope you've really enjoyed the video. I apologise for the stumbling of words, my hands are kind of freezing. It's cold out today, but I hope this video has brought some use to you. Do leave me a comment and let me know how you find it, if you've got any tips that you would add to it, and I'll see you next time for another MTB Fitness video.